好，接下来我们讲那个
Well, let us now continue
30年前就是去西方
with
主要
our
是美国
class
法
on
国
a journey to the
加拿大
West. It is
这个的会议录啊，
the
就讲
journey
这
that
个
Phuntsok Rinpoche took
然后这个
30
呢
years ago to give
应该
teachings
是
to the
从
West,
某种意义
to
上讲
United States,
大家
Canada,
一起
and
来就
France.
是向年就是法王如意宝，他老人家30年去
When
年前
we're
是这样
studying
一
it
个经历
together, we're
好像
remembering
昨天
him
是不是前面
all
有一段
together
没有
and
念
looking at and going through the journey along with him.
就是
I was told that I missed a part yesterday, so I'll reread it to you. It was from last time?
以上通过历史对前后世存在的道理做了简单说明，当然通过推理来证明前后世存在的真实性。佛教经章有很详细的解释，但在这次呢，就是我就不光说了，好像念了吧。
I think I did read this part.
今天我们就接着讲。
Well, let's continue.
讲什么呢？就讲对，这个地方就是前面讲那个密法，就是讲密法的话呢，实际上法王就后面也稍微说明了一下，就是因为他这里
Well,
按照米
earlier
尔日巴
we
的这个修行
studied
次第
the
的话呢，
Vajrayana
他
part
先
of
讲那
it,
个小乘的法，然后大乘
over
的法，
here
然后讲密乘的法。但是当天的话呢，就是
Phuntsok
可能
Rinpoche
法王
started
是
to
当
talk about the
因为有
gradual
很
path
多
that
非佛教徒也在里
Milarepa
面
took.
所以他当时可能把密法的有些修
He
法，就这些的
was
没
going
有
to
讲，
talk
就是不
about
讲的原因也可
the
能是这样的。
Hinayana and then Mahayana and then
我还希望你
Mantrayana
们
path, but because
不能
some of
像
the
米拉日巴
audience
尊者
were
那
not
样修持
practitioners
完
and
整
they
的
were
道
not
次
even
第啊，
Buddhists,
就是
so
道次第。
Phuntsok
过
Rinpoche
去
hid
佛
some
法
of the
的起
actual
源呢，就
practice
是因
of
为
the
现在的话
Mantrayana
呢，就是
teachings.
真如佛陀所
For
记的
most
一
of
样，
you,
就是
I
佛法的
truly
这个
wish that
根
you
本
can follow the
应该
gradual
可以
path to
说是在
complete
藏
all
地
necessary
区有
stages
完
in your
整的
Dharma
传承。
practice.
它的
And
这个
just
毫无夸
Milarepa
张
is
的，
such a
就是可
perfect
以这么讲，
example
因为
in
如今
this
印度的
regard.
话
In the
呢，就
past,
是
the Buddha
将近
Dharma
就是前
originated
面
and
讲的一样，
flourished
就是
in
现在
India.
这个中间从13世纪一直到这个18、19的话呢，就基本上都已经
India
就
all the
是
way
就是
between
归于一旦
13th
了，就
to
是没有什
18th
么这
or
个
19th
不要说传承，就是
century,
连很多的估计都没有
Buddhism
了，就是这样的。那么后来呢，就是通过藏传佛教和还有南
perished
传佛教
and
和还有这个北传
not
佛教
even
吧，
the
就是有
Dharma
个别的这个传承呢，
withered.
现在包
Even
括
some
就
of
是
the
佛陀的各大圣
architectures
地的话，那就是修
are
建寺院啊，
destroyed
就
or
是他们
hidden.
也有一些
Now,
传承。
different schools
为
of
此呢，就是也
Buddhism,
和你们
Tibetan
引导共
Buddhism,
进
Southern
城市，
tradition of
城市什么
Buddhism,
呢？就是城
and
市，城市的。
different traditions are currently also
那么是拥
reconstructing
有这
certain
些
sites
传
and
承
they're
的、具有
contributing
慈悲心的上
in
师啊，
synergy.
就是应该就
And
是
then
就
he
是你们要
continued to
恭
say
敬，就是有
that
这个
now,
传承的这
as
些
Buddha himself
上师。
prophesies that
那
all
么这样的
fundamentals
上
and
师，无
essential
论
Dharma
是谁，都应该就
teachings
是值得
have
一
been
致
well
啊，
preserved
这
in the
对你们
snow
就是只
land
有
of
利益，
Tibet,
就是不
where
会有
the
这个损
continuity
害
of a
的。其
complete
实如
transmission
果是
has
个好
remained
上师的话，
unbroken
那就
until
是利益
now.
非常
Therefore,
大。
it is beneficial
如
for
果
you
是
to sincerely
这个
respect
中
and
等的
cultivate
上师呢，
devotion
就是可
towards
能
those
只有
Tibetan
利益。
lamas who are
但如果
endowed
坏上师的
with
话，那
great
就是对
compassion
很多
and
人的这
possess
个
the
身心呢，
transmission
这个
of these
有害，
precious
就是
Dharma
所以说呢，
teachings.
一般来
Now,
讲，我们这个
one thing
当时
to
去西
emphasize
方
over
的时
here
候呢，
is
好
that
像那
the
个
lamas
藏
who
传
are
佛教的
endowed
这个
with
大
great
德呢，就是非
compassion
常
and
多，就是
and
它是
possess
因
the
为历史的
transmissions
原因和
of
有一些
the
有
precious
些各
Dharma
种原因
teachings.
吧，
It
就
has to
是
be a
就从
qualified
上面
teacher.
就是过去的
Maybe
人很
out
多，
of
但是
various
在那里
reasons,
的这些
especially
人的话呢，
historical reasons, there
就
are
很多都
great
很了不
masters
起的，
who
就是当
come
然
to
前
the
面什
West
么
to
登州
give
法王啊、定
teachings,
国建贼啊，就这些都是更不用说，他们都
especially
是
the
不
ones
是
that
人，
we
就是
mentioned
是真正的这个
previously,
大菩萨，
His
就是
Holiness
现世
Jigme
与
Rinpoche and
与
Khenpo
世间
Sodargye.
的。
They're
但后来的
indeed not just mundane beings. They're great bodhisattvas manifesting in this world, and then came to the West to give teachings, and then Gyaltru Rinpoche, Jigme Rinpoche, and many great lamas who benefited the local people. Phuntsok Rinpoche were very satisfied with their propagation of Dharma, and he said to them that what you've done over here are really beneficial. However, it indeed is because they had not received the systematic education of Dharma, so their teachings they don't give as much teachings, but because of their compassion and because of their skillful means, they indeed had benefited the local people.
没有佛教就是跟非洲可能就是差不多就是这样的。后来呢就是藏传佛教和还有一些其他的这个特征，慢慢在那里呢就是有了这个佛法。
North America, Buddhism is quite rare, maybe very similar to the now Africa. But slowly, Tibetan Buddhism and other kinds of traditions slowly came and propagated Dharma teachings to these lands. This time, we also have a few Dharma teachers who try to give Dharma teachings to the to the land of Africa. This time, I haven't heard any of the Khenpos planned to go to Africa. One Khenpo over here said that he will follow the instructions, whatever we want him to do. And then he said that his parents are home, and if he were to go to Africa, what if his parents pass away? And so on. Of course, I understand that. Some Dharma teachers indeed have concerns from various aspects. Those places that do not have any Dharma, in fact, the beings living there are suffering a lot. But because the beings are suffering so much, it would be better for the Dharma teachers to go to those places and propagate Dharma and to make Dharma flourish. And the merit would be far surpass where the Dharma is already flourishing. Even by giving them a simple mantra, like Avalokiteshvara mantra, the merit would be great. So whenever the opportunity presents themselves and when you have the causes and the conditions matured, I think it would be better for you to pay attention to the places that do not have Dharma yet. People of different ethnics and people of different nations, it would be difficult to make those causes and conditions, to have those matured causes and conditions. So I think that when such opportunities that's so difficult to present themselves. So when we have those opportunities already, we should try our best to benefit those beings. And even if you do not succeed to help them, that is still fine. Because when we look at the worldly merging of companies or making financial investments and so on, 70 to 80% of them are bound to fail. But people who do them are still alive. So as a Buddhist, when we try to benefit sentient beings, it's different than those who make financial investments. Even if we do not fail, it is nothing that we should feel ashamed about. But maybe by you going there slowly and slowly, you would present opportunities to those beings. You would plant the seeds for them to mature. And then for those of you who have already aspired for the Mahayana Bodhicitta, we need to have the courage to go to places where the Dharma is not flourishing, where the materialistic provisions are not so abundant, and try to plant the causes and conditions for people to make connection to the true Dharma. So over here it says that it doesn't matter, Phuntsok Rinpoche continues to say that it doesn't matter which teacher you follow as long as he or she is qualified to give you the Dharma teaching. teachings, you will benefit. They will definitely bring you no harm but only benefit. If you think of these masters in the United States, they have expounded the Dharma teachings and bestowed upon you the precious instructions of actual practice, all of which bring you tremendous benefit and happiness. This is obvious to every one of you. Therefore, when you have opportunities to serve them, for instance, when they come to your area, you should truly show your respect and devotion to whomsoever you can meet, and do whatever you can to meet their needs. Your Rinpoche shared the same Dharma lineage with us. If he had not come to this country, although there are also Tibetans living here, it would not be so beneficial to both you and others, because these Tibetans are not experts at Dharma, and even worse, they themselves have created much negative karma through their thoughts and behaviors. And there probably Phuntsok Rinpoche pointed to some unqualified Dharma teachers who created negative results. Conversely, your master came and transmitted the Dharma to numerous people, establishing the center at Karma Zone and also over 100 Dharma centers worldwide. Phuntsok Rinpoche over here specifically pointed to Trungpa Rinpoche, and whenever I noticed that Phuntsok Rinpoche mentions the name of Jigme Trungpa Rinpoche, the disciples would all tear up, because Jigme Trungpa Rinpoche benefited them tremendously, brought them much spiritual wealth. I think Phuntsok Rinpoche passed away in 1987 or so, but it's been about over 30 years. Whenever I noticed that whenever we mention his name, they still would tear up, though that his behavior and that is Jigme Trungpa Rinpoche's behavior and activities are sometimes difficult for us to understand, but indeed he brought them great benefits. If he were never had been to the States, then I'm sure not many people would be able to tread onto the path. However, it seems that nowadays the majority of them in those centers are getting quite aged. In 1995, when Phuntsok Rinpoche went to one center, not so sure if that center has been under construction or maintenance or something. It's been closed for a few years. Unlike some of those centers back then were flourishing and quite prosperous, but now it seems that it's withering, and some of them cannot even be found, and this is really just a sign of impermanence. Now that we're listening to the Dharma teachings in certain centers, we should uphold that feeling of, we should understand and remember impermanence at all times. Then Phuntsok Rinpoche continued to say that someone like me can hardly bring you great benefits, because I'm already very old and also seriously ill. Other than this tour, I do not think I can come to the United States for a second time, so I cannot help you too much. However, there are already many masters living in this country, which is certainly a result of your own merit. Phuntsok Rinpoche pointed out that it would be very difficult for him to go to the United States again, and he was ill and various kinds of conditions. Even back then, to fly all the way from Tibet to the United States, the conditions are difficult to meet. For example, to get a passport, the visa, and then to gather the fees for the to commute all the way from Tibet to United States. Even the flight tickets cost so much that people were very much surprised after we came back and told them. And then he continued to say that since there are still great masters living in this country, therefore each of you should devotedly serve them and put their teachings into your practice. Not only me, most Tibetan lamas have difficulty traveling to the U.S. all the way from Tibetan regions in China, because it requires many favorable conditions and assistance from a Tibetan to travel abroad from China. Meanwhile, I hope you you can venerate those lamas who have left the land of Tibet and now live in India and elsewhere, because you also have close connections to you. There is no need to mention all these teachers of Kagyu lineage in India, since you follow the same tradition of them. Currently, we have Gyalwa Rinpoche as our spiritual leader in Buddhism. He is the true incarnation of Avalokiteshvara, the noble lord of the world. If you have the opportunity to see him and listen to him in person, please do not hesitate to do so. Any connections with him has a significant meaning to you, because it brings you vast benefits and results. Also, I have learned that His Holiness Penna Rinpoche plans to return to U.S. next year. He now lives in the southern part of India and has been recognized as the supreme head of Nyingma lineage. I myself am just a negligible teacher in his Dharma lineage, while Penna Rinpoche resides over hundreds of monasteries in the land of Tibet and has educated a great numbers of monastics in India who can be seen everywhere in this world wearing the monastic robes. Such an astonishing guru is very rare in this day and age. It indeed is very difficult to cultivate such a great large monastic in India. No one else could surpass him. It is very rare to see. Penna Rinpoche is of a from a high status in terms of the hierarchy of Pali lineage. The monastery of Phuntsok Rinpoche is Laurel Monastery, which is a small branch monastery of the Pali lineage. There are different kinds of scattered monasteries over different places, but all belong to the Pali lineage, and Penna Rinpoche is the head of that. So speaking of his personality, he is of a compassionate teacher who solely helps sentient beings and never harms anyone, not even in the slightest. Regarding his religious role, he is able to maintain peace and harmony among all religious traditions in the world, especially providing any possible support and service to all different Buddhist schools, including Nyingma, Kagyu, Shakya, and Gelug, and so on. Well, since at that time, Penna Rinpoche was supposed to travel to United States on the second year, and Phuntsok Rinpoche would first promote and teach the disciples and talk to him about the qualities of Penna Rinpoche. It is similar to say that if I were to give teachings, then I would make those announcements or promotions to Phuntsok Rinpoche. So sometimes I would jokingly talk to Khenpo Namdro, saying that, well, wherever we go, the first thing you mention is about Penna Rinpoche. So you're here to make advertisements. And Phuntsok Rinpoche over here says that if such a remarkable Lama comes to your area in the future, you must request him to turn the wheel of Dharma with your deepest devotion and veneration. Establishing an auspicious connection with him will bring you inconceivable great benefit. These gurus live in the U.S. nowadays all come from the same place as me, so I'm quite familiar with them. As far as I know, they solely follow the Buddha's teaching and wholeheartedly work for the well-being of others. There is no way for them to do anything harmful to any being. If you can follow their guidance and put their teachings into your practice properly, I will truly be happy for you. I really feel that Phuntsok Rinpoche's teaching is so beneficial and very meaningful, each of those. All in all, I wish that whatever you think and whatever you do becomes the cause of sentient beings' happiness and benefit, and in particular, may you give rise to a kind and gentle heart, Jasi Dele. He simply says that, may you give rise to a kind and gentle heart, not a heart of the insights of Mahaati or of bodhicitta or anything of that, rather a kind and gentle heart, which is something the Western audience loves to hear. In the last part, Eugenio will also explaining the practice of sacred mantra. He didn't give the actual instruction of Mahamudra or Dzogchen. He only emphasized that one should observe the tantric vow of a pure view, and based on that, rely upon the qualified masters in the U.S. who had attained a certain level of accomplishment and were experienced in these Vajrayana practices. He continued to say that, in other words, the students should seek the precious teachings from their local lamas, whom they can rely on the long term. It is because of Vajrayana practice require a practitioner to follow a qualified guru for a long time. Over here, Phuntsok Rinpoche just made that clarification in terms of the Vajrayana teaching, Vajrayana instructions. And without the personal guidance from a close teacher, some typical uncommon practices cannot be successful. This is why Rinpoche just pointed out to the listener in the right direction while not providing them with a detailed instruction of sacred mantra.